Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RFP Success Show. I'm your host, Lisa Rehurik, and each week I bring you information, strategy, and resources to help you win more business through RFPs and hopefully have a little fun doing it. So let's get this week's episode started. I am excited to welcome Mike Parkinson. Welcome, Mike. Mike is the owner of 24-Hour Company and also Billion Dollar Graphics. And 24-Hour Company's tagline is bid-winning proposal graphics. He is a master graphics person for bids, basically what it comes down to. And I just actually had Mike do a webinar for our local APMP chapter here, and he blew it out of the water, gave everybody a lot of great tips, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to have him on the podcast. So here we are. Welcome, Mike. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk all things graphics, and I know that my listeners really love this topic because if you're not a graphics professional, they're always painful. And so learning some really quick tips to how to make it easier and still look professional is really going to be great. A couple more things I want to tell you guys about Mike. He's a CPP APMP fellow. If you are part of the Association of Proposal Management Professionals, you know what that means. And he's also one of 34 Microsoft PowerPoint MVPs in the world, which is pretty amazing. And he's an internationally recognized visual communication and proposal expert, best-selling author, and professional trainer. So he knows his stuff. He's got a lot of great stuff to say. So Mike, I want to kick it off by having you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what it is that you do.
Well, in a nutshell, I take art and science and I blend them, and I help people win more proposals. I help people hit their success, the rate, increase their success rate, meet their goals. I started out, I went to Baltimore School for the Arts for high school and got an education in academia and art. Then I went to college and went for bioengineering. That didn't work out.
Wow.
And art, I know exactly. I'm not smart enough. So I really dig on and appreciate science because just using art is too subjective. And in the world of mature organizations, we need a repeatable process. We need objective truth as much as we can get it. And understanding how proposals are either reviewed or scored, depending on if you're commercial or government, and understanding how we can significantly increase our win rates is important. And then I take that understanding in science and then I apply it to specifically graphics, but I also help with writing as well. My focus is on the visuals simply because of the power that those have within proposals.
This is so exciting. There was so much you said in there that is going to be exciting for this conversation. And I know from the webinar that we did that you do have a really cool process before you even get to creating the visual, and that's really fun. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to ask you, because you talked about how powerful visuals are, and we know how important they are, but really, why are they important?
Why they're important is because this is kind of a sneak peek at a keynote I'm giving at a conference in the future. We're living in, if not moving very quickly to an at-a-glance society. We are fractured. Reviewers, evaluators, decision makers, even us, we are spread so thin.
Yeah.
So we really want the information that we need as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And really smart people like Pascal and Benjamin Franklin and Thoreau said, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. They say that because communicating succinctly is freaking hard. It's really hard.
It
is. I think we owe it. We owe it to our audience to be able to communicate as efficiently as possible. And Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. Ooh. So what I look to for my proposals specifically, I also help with other industries, but specifically on business development, I look for, do we understand our solution, how it will help our customers, and what differentiates or discriminates our solution from competitors. That's kind of what evaluators want. What is your solution, and why should I pick you? Really, that's it in a nutshell. Pricing is a different thing. It's a different beast. So assuming we have a good product at a fair price, we're only going to lose if we can't efficiently communicate or communicate clearly our solution and why we're better. And that is what we do. And we do it using what we've learned about how the brain works, processes information, and makes decisions. How do I pick the RFP Success Show over other things that could take my time up? And what we're looking for are things that's going to help me achieve my goals, and ultimately that's the process.
You know, and it's so brilliant too, because, and I talk to my folks all the time, I talk to my clients all the time that, you know, you can't just decide, oh, this needs more visual and pull out a piece of the content and slap it into a visual and put it up there. It's got to have some meaning to it. And you're right. And I tell them all the time too, like, don't forget the people on the other side of the proposal are human beings, right? They are people just like you and I, and they have different moods and different personalities and different things going on. And like you said, you know, we're all freaking busy. So how can we get that across? And I love visuals because they can do that if done well, but I'm sure that you can agree with me that we see a lot of them done very poorly. And so we're going to help with that today. Perfect. All right. So if somebody isn't a graphics professional, I know a lot of people will just say, well, we just don't put graphics in because we don't want cheesy clip art and we're not professional enough to develop professional graphics, or we don't have the budget for that. So how can they do that on a budget to some degree, but allow it to still look professional?
Well, yes, Lisa, you're right that bad graphics negatively impact win rates, period. We can lose partially because of bad graphics. Now, it's very rare that a graphic wins or loses a proposal. There are a few instances where graphics have won proposals, and I'm not going to bore you with those stories. They're rare and few and far between. They are a reason for a win or a reason for a loss.
Yeah.
So what's surprising, though, is that you would think it's, you know, because I talked about we're an at-a-glance society. At-a-glance isn't just referring to what things look like. It's part of it, because we do judge a book by its cover. We absolutely do. Scientifically proven over and over and over again. However, there's more parts to the puzzle. The brain is much more complex than that. So what I found through experimentation and 20-some years of doing this is when, let's say you have a choice between a graphic that is unprofessional but says a whole lot that actually helps the decision maker do their job, or you have a graphic that's very professional that doesn't really do anything. It's dancing baloney. It's pointless. Now, what experimentation has found is that typically the pretty graphics score higher or get reviewed higher. However, that's changing.
Interesting.
I know they did an experiment. SAIC did an experiment where they had two proposals. One was compliant and one wasn't. The non-compliant proposal was pretty. The compliant proposal was not pretty. And the one that was non-compliant usually won. Well, actually almost always won. I'm seeing that change though, because, and this is going to sound like a blanket statement. So do know that nothing is always or never. We're seeing a shift in the age of reviewers. We're seeing a change in a switch over to an audience that has grown up with different aesthetics, and they are more comfortable with simplified visuals. So what I say now is,
Hey, Mike, can you hold on just a sec? We've lost your sound. I can't hear you now.
Let's see here.
Wait, you're back. You're back.
Oh, I'm back.
You're back. Yay.
How far did you lose me? What was I saying? What was the last thing?
I lost you right when you said that we've got more people that have grown up with aesthetics. So let's kind of kick it off from there, and we'll edit that piece out.
Okay. So you have a new generation of reviewers, decision makers, evaluators, whatever you want to call it, and they are now accepting of simpler graphics. They're more comfortable with them. So if we have a choice between a graphic that is clear and compelling and is not super professional, maybe it's created in Visio or something like that, then we have a graphic that is not clear and compelling but it's aesthetically appealing, I'm going to go with the graphic that provides value for this new generation of reviewers. Don't get me wrong, in a perfect world, I take the aesthetic quality and the powerful content and I marry them together. Well, guess what? What if you only have room or time for one than the other? By the way, this one, the one that is the invisible one in my hand,
Right.
this one is this is the one, I pointed with the wrong finger there. This one is is going to be the harder to create, the one that actually has valuable content. Creating a pretty picture, I can hire a lot of graphic designers to create a pretty picture. I can't come up with a winning graphic. That's very, very hard. And only a few people that I've met in the industry are very adept at creating clear, compelling, powerful, motivational, or I should say persuasive content and visuals.
Well, and you said something a little while ago that's key too, which is simple, right? Like we don't need to overcomplicate this. And I know I work with a lot of people that it's a lot of technical, actuarial, technology, biometrics, all that kind of stuff. And they can get a little bit too in their heads with technical. Those visuals, it sounds like you're saying the simpler the better for this kind of new generation of evaluators.
Yes, and with a caveat. Simple is in the eyes of the beholder. The proficiency of the decision maker is going to dictate the complexity of my graphic, if that makes sense. The same with the content. If I'm speaking to, I think Britney Spears said this, and don't quote me, but I believe she said rocket surgeons. So if I'm talking to rocket surgeons, I'm probably going to have a different language and a different level of complexity that for them may be simple. But for the casual reader, or for you and I don't know, maybe you're a rocket surgeon.
I am not.
I too am not a rocket surgeon. Then it would be way complex for us. So it's really dictated. Everything is really dictated by two key factors, and that is what's my goal and who's my audience. And that changes everything.
And it's not always easy to know when you're looking at an RFP, you've got very varying levels of people that are reading that. So you have to take that into account too. Like you've got evaluators all over the board. You might have 3 or 4 or 6 evaluators and they're all going to be at different levels likely, right?
Absolutely. And that is part of the science of what I do. What happens if we don't know who our audience is? What happens if it's somebody who got pulled out of their job because the people that were supposed to review the proposal were too busy? Are we speaking to them as well as are we speaking to the person that has deep proficiency or deep understanding of the problem that we're trying to solve? What do you do? Well, there's actually something you can do. And most people certainly don't know how to do that. And I didn't know until I learned from really smart people that won Nobel Prizes and figuring out what you do in those situations. They're quite brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's such great. This is such great stuff. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when it comes to visuals?
The number one mistake, by far, hands down, is people don't know what they want to say before they say it.
Yes.
So what they'll do is they'll create a graphic and they'll change the graphic and tweak the graphic, modify the graphic, throw it away, start over. We're in a bring me a rock situation. We're in a I'll know it when I see it situation. And oh my gosh, that is so expensive and time consuming. Holy frijoles. No, in the world of business development, in the world of proposals, time is probably the most valuable commodity and we're wasting it. We're literally throwing it away because all we had to do is come up with a very clear message that is going to increase our likelihood of winning and then tailor the graphic to that message. So now the graphic is being measured against, does it communicate that information versus what does the author think is cool? Because the author isn't going to write a check for $1 million to $500 billion. They're not.
Right.
When we're doing proposals for $50,000, the author isn't going to write a check if we lose. So I kind of don't care if the author likes it or not. What I care about is the evaluator going to, is the reviewer, is the decision maker going to give us the thumbs up and give us the win. And that sometimes is an interesting set of, or interesting thing to have to navigate, is reminding the CEO of a company that it's okay that you and I don't like it. What matters is, does it get us the win?
That's a really great point, because they do kind of have to put their ego aside or whatever it is. I know a lot of times technical writers are like, no, it's got to be displayed this way. And the other
Right.
thing that you said there that's really funny is the fact that, you know, somebody's got to come up with the message of what they want to say. And oddly, a lot of times they don't even really know that, because nobody stops to think about it, right? They just kind of plow ahead. Do you
Yep.
see that a lot?
I see it a lot. I see it. I work with other industries, and I started in proposals. Been there 20 some years, and I went in. Somebody saw me at a conference at Association of Proposal Management Professionals, APMP conference, and they were go to other conferences. They're in the professional development community. They said, "Hey, will you come speak at our industry?" And that was about 10 years ago, and I did. And then I got into the sales industry, other types of things in marketing, and I grew my roots into these other industries, and I found that we all do the same thing.
Right?
Every single one of the industries just jump right into it. For example, I speak at a conference called Presentation Summit. It's a great conference,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's for presenters. And the number one sin is that, hey, you got to create at least you got to create a presentation on the RFP Success Show, and how it can impact people's win rates and make them passionate about proposals and things like that. And typically what happens is people jump right into PowerPoint. And that is the worst thing you can do. That means that you're going to reiterate, and cost a lot of time and money unnecessarily. As a Microsoft MVP, which just means I'm a dork, I should say, is that Microsoft, I get to go to the Redmond, Washington facility, and Microsoft says over and over again, the worst thing you can do when you create a PowerPoint presentation is to open PowerPoint. Well, the worst thing you can do when you're creating a graphic is to create a graphic. No. Take a little bit of time to plan it out first. What's your message? What's your takeaway? What's the point of the graphic? Summarize the graphic in one sentence. And if you do it the right way, everything's going to fall into place so much faster.
Well, you know, you talked about that on the webinar, and so I want to dive a little bit deeper there. Are there specific steps that somebody needs to take, or was that what you just said? Because you did, you know, on that webinar, what you did is you kind of broke out, here's what you need to do before we even get to the graphics, and it felt like there were some steps to that. Can you talk a little bit deeper there? Because I love that.
Sure. I'm going to summarize it in a way I didn't summarize it in the webinar, just for the sake of efficiency, since we don't have any
Visual.
thing to share.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Number one thing, we got to figure out our goal. We know what our goal is, to win or communicate certain things, but we have to understand our audience. The next thing is coming up with that message, and that message is critical. And the way I like to break it down, because human beings are only motivated by three things. There's only three things that motivate human beings, and that's pain, gain, and fear. That's it. Nothing else. We don't do anything if there's not pain, gain, or fear. And then when it comes to making a decision, picking this one or that one, there's only three factors that go into it, and that's trust, ego, and value. And
I love
the
that.
way I like to construct my messages is that it taps into that scientific understanding of how heuristics occur. So what I'll typically do is create a message, an action caption, a takeaway, a headline, whatever you want to call it, and it'll be broken up into two parts, and that is the benefit and how. And so the benefit is going to be the pain, gain, fear, and the how is going to be the intellectual part, and you can add value in there. If we have quantitative evidence, meaning that it isn't just qualitative, we've actually measured this and we've seen other people achieve these levels of success, put that in there. So you would say that save up to 43% on your current costs by using our help desk solution, our proven help desk solution. Then the graphic needs to prove that. It's providing demonstrative evidence. So the graphic's going to answer what is your proven help desk solution, and how is it going to save me up to 43%? Prove it to me. And then that's the graphic. So
Oh, that's
everything in the
good.
graphic, if it's not germane to that message, get it out of there.
Yes. And again, I love it when I talk to people that are so in line with a lot of the messages that I give to my clients, because I always say, if you're going to claim something, you got to prove it. You can't just say,
Yep.
hey, we are the best, or we're really good, or, give me proof, or they're not going to believe you. And I love that you're saying that in the graphic, get that proof in the graphic, because they
Yes.
can kind of take that snapshot view and really take it away, sink their teeth into it, right? And be able to walk away with knowing that about you. And we've been talking about, does the visual win the proposal? Well, again, when we've got human beings, they're judging on every little piece that they're looking at. And so while we might not be able to substantiate that, yes, the visuals or this piece or that piece won the proposal, all of that combined together will increase your chance of winning, because the judgment of the evaluators is going to be a better viewpoint of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, think about it from the decision maker's perspective. Remember, this is where if we're not already there, we're going to be an at-a-glance society in no time. We're so close. They have to make these very complicated decisions as quickly as possible, and our job is to say, all right, I understand how you make decisions because I've done some research. So I'm going to make it really easy for you to pick us. For example, if we say we're a very innovative organization and our solution is very innovative, then at a glance, we better look like it, sound like it, feel like it, taste like it. So when someone picks up a proposal, it should look and feel innovative. We should go, ooh, this is different. And so now when we make the claim that we're an innovative company, everything is in support of that. Because if it's not in support of it, we're going to confuse the reviewer, the decision maker, or the evaluator. They're going to say, well, wait a minute, they say they're innovative, but they look like a company that I saw in the 1980s. That isn't consistent with being innovative. Those are the things that human beings cannot separate. They're tightly woven into every decision that we make. And understanding this is critical to win proposals in this very competitive marketplace.
Yeah, and I would think that would erode trust as well.
Oh, yeah. Trust is the closest thing to a silver bullet in proposals.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's kind of funny because I hadn't even really thought about that. And I teach it, right? But it really does have to live and breathe and be all things innovative if you're claiming that innovation. It's not even just about that one statement that quantifies it, that substantiates it. It's about the whole, not just that micro level, but the macro level also.
Absolutely. If we make a claim, then everything should be consistent with that claim, because people are making decisions with their intellectual mind and their emotional mind. And when I say emotional mind, I'm not saying, ooh, I felt funny. No, we go by our feelings. Dr. Herbert Simon proved that over 93% of decision making in corporate America is made with gut instinct.
Wow.
Not because their gut's wrong, but because actually it's smarter.
Yep.
We have approximately 1 to 8 million unconscious thoughts for every conscious thought we have. So our feelings, our instinct is critical. If we look at those 6 things I talked to you about when we're making a decision: pain, gain, fear, trust, ego, and value. These are all emotions: pain, gain, fear, trust, ego. It isn't until we get to the last one, value, that we start talking about the intellectual stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
All right. So we've talked about kind of that upfront process, all the things you need to do. Once we get to the visual itself, what if somebody doesn't have professional graphics experience or exposure? Can they still make something that looks professional?
Yes, there's 3 choices I recommend. So when I work with companies that are resource starved, the first
I love
choice,
that, resource starved.
I mean, it's kind of like, it's even Lockheed Martin or Pfizer can be resource starved for these things, because they just can't reach out within the organization or without, because of constraints or because security issues. So the number one thing I recommend is that they create a custom graphic asset library. So they work with, prior to the RFP coming out, they work with a designer in-house, outsourced, doesn't matter, and they come up with a set of frequently needed visuals that can be easily tailored by the author for each individual effort. Because the realistic, in order to ensure adoption, it has to be usable by the people that need to use it. I know this sounds ridiculous, but if I have a JPEG and I need it for a proposal, then I can't change the JPEG, the flat image, so I'm just going to insert it into my proposal, and it might or might not do what I need it to do. Instead, the graphics need to be editable. I typically go with PowerPoint, not because it's a graphics package, but because it's a ubiquitous tool that most people can change text and move things around.
Okay.
So, you know, a custom graphic asset library that can be tailored to meet individual needs. So that's the one thing a resource-starved proposal development department can use.
And
Number
I love
two
that.
is,
I'm gonna interject real quick. I love that because I was actually going to ask you that question a couple minutes ago and I had forgotten about it. And so I was just going to ask you, can they prepare things ahead of time? And you just answered that. So that's beautiful.
absolutely, and thank you. The second thing is kind of dovetails with it. Because I see so many proposal professionals that are struggling with coming up with visuals, I work with some really smart Microsoft MVPs and other friends that I know that are brilliant. And we came up with a tool called Build-A-Graphic. So this is the other option. So the second option would be using a tool like Build-A-Graphic. I don't know if there's others out there. I haven't found any, doesn't mean they're not out there.
Okay.
So Build-A-Graphic is this PowerPoint-based add-in that you just install. And as you type your text in, it gives you visuals to replace or augment the existing text. So it analyzes your keywords and phrases, and then it allows you to insert graphics that then you can tailor or customize. So it's literally building a graphic, and it's a library of thousands of graphic assets that you can tailor to meet your brand standards, or you can modify in any way because they're vector-based if it matters. But that's another way to do it. So to use a tool that is user-friendly, that has no learning curve. It's just, you just go in and start typing stuff. If you can type stuff, you can make a graphic.
Super simple.
The other, yes, super simple. So Build-A-Graphic was made to empower the average PowerPoint proposal author, PowerPoint user proposal author, to just create professional graphics. The other thing is, and this is a little bit of a long lead thing, and it's an investment, is to get training. It's to get training on how to do these things yourself. There's pros and cons to doing it. If the goal is DIY, do it yourself, and the goal is to build that, to upskill your current professionals in your organization, then yeah, training. But if you don't want your authors doing graphics, or rather you don't want your authors spending a lot of time doing graphics, then I'd recommend going with a graphic asset library or Build-A-Graphic so that they can quickly augment something that's already good and make it their own and tailor it for that particular effort.
Really great tips there. And, you know, I learned about Build-A-Graphic from you on the webinar, and I've already installed it and I love it, and it's super simple. So users out there, you definitely want to grab that. But I also know that there's probably people that are listening that are like, I need to call Mike. So, because you do that, right? Like that's part of what you do is develop graphics for people. So as we conclude this podcast episode, tell us how people can get in touch with you if they want to chat with you more.
Easily reach out to me via email, mike@24hrco.com, which is short for 24-hour company. Or if you don't remember that one, there's Mike at $1 Billion Graphics. If one of them's more easier to remember, just email me. And then if you go to either 24-hour company's website, which is 24hrco.com, or billiondollargraphics.com, you'll get phone numbers and emails on how to reach us. And I'm pretty darn responsive. I travel quite a bit helping companies do this stuff. However, I do find time on planes and when I'm not, up to my eyeballs in alligators to respond. So please reach out or call either of the offices. There's always someone available to help.
Okay, perfect. And all of that information, by the way, to the listeners will be in the show notes. So it'll be easy to grab a hold of that and get in touch with them. Mike, thank you so much. It went by way too fast, but it has been such a pleasure. And you've given so many great tips that I know the listeners are going to be thrilled with. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. It's an awesome show. And thank you for being a champion for best practices, is spreading the word. It's awesome that you're doing it and you're helping evolve the industry. You rock.
Awesome. Thank you. You rock too. I love it. All right, everybody. Well, you have been listening to the RFP Success Show. I'm Lisa Rehurick, and I look forward to having you back again next week. Take care, everybody.